Get to our visit with Jeremy England, State Senator, District 51, also Vice Chair of Economic Development in the House Committee. Well, this is the first international star I've had on in a couple of weeks. Did you see the write-up in the Daily Mail?
I did, Paul. I hope those folks across the pond like my last name.
Yes, absolutely, positively. I'm sure they said, well, we know where the boy's from originally, so that I didn't think about that, but you are absolutely right. All right,
that's right.
Where do we start with this brouhaha? First of all, I'm going to let you kind of set the story for people who haven't heard this, so they can hear you. What went on with the photo, the meaning behind all of that, and I'll let you take it because it's good to hear from the person who was involved in this and not from somebody else. So go for
it. Yeah, thanks, Paul. So in 2020, I was an ambassador for the Real Men Wear Pink program down here on the coast, which raises money for breast cancer awareness. And of course, 2020 was COVID year. It was very difficult to raise money. We could not, have events like we would normally. So my wife and I put our head together and said, why don't we put a contest out where I will agree to wear a very embarrassing pink costume out trick-or-treating with my kids in my neighborhood for Halloween. We picked 3 costumes. We asked people to donate to which one they wanted to see me wear. And they did. And of course, the most embarrassing one won. It was me. It was a pink bodysuit, essentially, that's skin tight. I had a tutu that I wore with it, which the tutu wasn't originally part of the costume, but became necessary when we found out how tight this suit was. And so I had a bucket that I walked around and asked people in my neighborhood to donate money for breast cancer awareness. And I had told them before I was coming by, the whole neighborhood loved it. The kids loved it. The family loved it. Well, fast forward to now, 2023, we're heading into Lieutenant Governor election. I've endorsed and am proud to endorse Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann. Did a commercial ad for him. And the day that launched, I was sent this picture in a text message by one of my fellow senators that it was obviously in a way to kind of intimidate me. Like, hey, here's an embarrassing photo of you that's going to, we're going to release.
This was Melanie Sojourner. Come on, we know who it is. It's in the news. Unless I'm wrong. Okay. Where did she capture this? Was it on your Facebook page?
Oh, yes. Yeah, look, this was something that we posted. It's not like they had to go dig for it. I still have it on my page. It was a funny thing. It was an enjoyable moment. And look, I don't take myself too seriously. If I did, I don't think I would be able to do this job. But I'll point out that Senator Sojourner and I don't have the type of relationship where she can send something like that to me and it obviously be a joke. Now, most of the senators I serve with, we have a great relationship. They can send that to me. We'll laugh, make fun of each other, have a good time. But Senator Sojourner is not really.
Let me ask you a question here, because I don't know this answer, but I think it is pertinent to the conversation. Since she was, I think, technically the campaign manager for Chris McDaniel in the last go-around, is she listed that way now, or do you know?
Yeah, I don't know, Paul. I know that I see her out whether she's volunteering or part of the, officially paid member of the campaign. Mm-hmm. She's certainly very, very involved and has a relationship with Senator McDaniel that, they obviously are good friends, and she's part of the campaign as far as I can tell.
Jeremy, what did the text say to you?
Oh, it was just a picture. She sent the picture. Look, she and I have texted maybe 3 times in the past 4 years. So to get that picture on the day that my ad dropped in favor of Lieutenant Governor Hosemann, and look, the ad was against Senator McDaniel. I said, quite frankly, in that commercial ad that I supported Senator McDaniel in 2014. Then I got to know him. I saw what kind of person he was, what kind of leadership style he has, and I don't back him anymore. So it wasn't a favorable commercial, and it was just odd. I was sitting there at dinner that night with my family, and then this text from Melanie Sojourner comes through, and it's me in my pink bodysuit.
It had no text with it at all?
None, not at all.
Where
It was pretty
did
obvious what it was.
where did the groomer part of this come out?
So the groomer part came about from another individual that's working with the Chris McDaniel campaign. Again, whether volunteer or official wise, I'm not sure. But it was a guy that lives somewhere around the Jackson area that is really big on legalized marijuana and all of that good stuff. But he is supporting Senator McDaniel, posted this picture of me and called me a groomer.
Well, for folks who don't know what a groomer is, it's attached to pedophilia, and it's not something that you want to have anybody call you or even allude to. So, go ahead, sir. Can you hear me, or did we lose audio?
No, I can hear you. My wife was just she stepped in and told me I was echoing, so I was going to get a set of headphones from her to maybe help out.
No, you're okay on the air, so I don't hear echo on the air, so you're good there. Well, I guess on my part. So anyway, I do want to ask you this: when you talk about building a coalition, because I sincerely believe there are a lot of people who it took a while for Chris McDaniel to get over that Thad Cochran situation and all that. Whether he was responsible for all of it or not, and some of it he probably was, some of it not, I don't know. All I know, it was one of the nastiest campaigns in Mississippi history, and nobody ever wants to go back to that one. And to this point, we thought, okay, that's behind us. And it's not only this, but it was also in the situation where he condemned the lieutenant governor for being on the abortion clinic, inferring that he approved of having abortions, at the same time calling himself pro-life. Speak to that.
Yeah, Paul. Well, first of all, the Senator McDaniel campaigns always have one common denominator, and that's Senator McDaniel. Whether these people get out of line on their own or with him, it happens. We've seen it happen. It's still happening. This attack of Lieutenant Governor Hosemann on the abortion clinic thing is just out of left field. It's a business record that they're putting this on. It's already been debunked, and it's still being pushed. And look, I'll note that in every election that he has ran, that Senator McDaniel has ran, he claims the other side is a Democrat. He seeks to divide the Republican Party every chance he get. He claimed Thad Cochran was a Democrat. He claimed Senator Hyde Smith was a Democrat. Now he's claiming Delbert Hosemann was a Democrat. And look, now I'm a rhino or a Democrat because I'm supporting Lieutenant Governor Hosemann. It's getting old, and I know we're going to touch on this, but I've been able to raise a lot of money now since this picture came out for breast cancer awareness. And the reason I've been able to do it is people are tired of these dirty politics, and we're tired of the divisiveness that Senator McDaniel is spewing.
I alluded to this on Friday, that if you get tired of this in 4 months, just think about 4 years of this. But in his ad, one of his ads, he's talking about, I'm gonna immediately cut out the income tax. We're gonna wipe out the income tax, personal income tax for every citizen. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And the reality about that is you're less likely, because you have to build a coalition. You're not Joe Biden. You just can't do everything like a dictator. So I mean, you have to have a working relationship, not only in the Senate but also in the House, one way or the other. So speak to that when you hear him say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and understand that he's been really ineffectual through 10 years. I think somebody noted, it might have been you, that when he was asked how many bills he had in his tenure, he said, well, he's offered about 350 bills. No. How many have you actually had passed? And the number not is 350. What's the number?
Yeah, the number is 3 in 10 years, Paul, and it's not bills that are meaningful. It was one bill named West Nile Virus Awareness Month or something along those lines. One recognized a football team, and one recognized a beauty pageant winner. And that's 10 years of taxpayer dollars paying Senator McDaniel to sit in the Senate and just be there, just occupy a seat, really, because he doesn't work. He doesn't build consensus. He's never there when I'm working on very tough, meaningful legislation. And, he claims that all of this happens behind closed doors, but he's going to have to come out from his own closed door, which is his office in the Capitol, to learn what's going on.
And I'll tell you why that is important to the constituents in his district. One of the things we were talking about, again, Senator Jeremy England, Mississippi Senator District 51, is my guest this morning on a Monday. But he said, we're talking about he, meaning the candidate for the lieutenant governor in the primary as a Republican, Chris McDaniel, that he has offered 350 bills. Well, only 3 made it there, and again, less than noteworthy, those 3. And to me, why this matters to the people, because you get some people say, well, the best thing is not to pass any bills. Well, that's not true, because the reason you are there as a member of the legislature, House and or Senate, is that your constituents bring you legislation all the time, problems, whether it's the individual citizen, whether it's a school board, whether it's the police department, whether it's the sheriff, whether it's the mayor of the municipalities within your district, whether, you can go on and on and on and on. These are the problems we're having, whether you address these, or even if it's not a problem, a local and private legislation, or something of that point. You have to be effective. You have to build a coalition. And you're looking at the guy who wants to be the lieutenant governor in charge of the entire Senate to a point, and this is the track record. And you can base it on that. Speak to that.
Yeah, Paul, that's correct. Look, legislating is hard. It's a difficult job. We have like 4,000, between 3,000 and 4,000 bills that are dropped every year. And I remind myself every time I'm looking at those, every bill is the most important thing to somebody's life. So we have to take them seriously, and we have to cull through, and sometimes we have to push bills off, and we have to come back to them. But look, in the last 4 years, I've passed 7 bills that I think are meaningful. And the way that I do that, I've got to make sure they're drafted properly. I've got to work them through my Senate committee, ask my chairman to take them up, work with my colleagues to get it passed out of committee, then get it passed off of our own floor. Then I've got to go across the hall and talk to my House members and talk to the committee chairman over there. And then I've got to get it to the governor and ask the governor to sign it and talk to him about it. It's a very tedious process to get bills passed. You have to work hard on it. You have to build consensus. And I can tell you, and look, some of my bills, I'll say, frankly, came right out of a Democrat-led committee. I don't let that stop me. None of us do. Mississippi is a very diverse place. And that's one thing that makes Mississippi great. But you've got to work on your bills, and you've got to move them. And Senator McDaniel just has not been a worker. He's not somebody I would call and say, hey, I need your help on this bill, because he's not going to work on it. It would be a wasted phone call on my part.
I think they picked the wrong guy to attack in this particular case, Jeremy, which is but one of the commonalities about his previous campaign and this campaign, he has people there, many of them, and you said something earlier that it just made it click to me. He's got people, certainly on Twitter, the last time that, as far as the talk show host, they go after you like fire ants, which in my business, that's fine. I'm not voting. I'm not going to run for anything. But they have this history of doing that. They'll go after you. It doesn't really matter. There's no boundary whatsoever. To call somebody a groomer is beneath the pale, to be honest with you. And they hide behind this anonymity also. But the commonality on that, which I found, is a lot of these people are not even from the state. We have the Knowles and some of these people in the last campaign, and I'm not sure if they've infected this one again one way or the other. I won't even mention their names, full names, but they all have this thing in common. Well, I shouldn't say all. A lot of them are advocates of recreational marijuana. Have you noticed that?
Yes, they are. And they think they found a candidate that's going to push that for them. And look, I'm not a proponent of recreational marijuana in Mississippi. I'm happy to sit in and have talks with it and explain why I'm not. And I think the Lieutenant Governor agrees with that. We fought really hard to get us a foot in the door on medical marijuana. We're learning how that works. But look, the entire character of certain states has changed once they bring in recreational marijuana. Colorado is not the same state it once was. I don't want to see that here in Mississippi. I want to see us keep our character. I want to see us trying this medical marijuana thing to see how it works. We're dipping our toe in the water on that. But yeah, you do have a lot of supporters of recreational marijuana that are backing Senator McDaniel and his campaign for whatever reason. They obviously think they've got a supporter there.
Has he ever said anything openly about that you know of?
I don't know, Paul. Usually when I hear him talking, he's shaking his fist and yelling about what's going on in Washington so much. I don't ever get anything Mississippi related out of it. So I don't know if he said anything about it or not.
But he is an advocate, of course, as many people are in the House and Senate, of getting a new initiative bill.
That's right. Yeah, and look, we've been working on that. And again, that gets right back to this whole work ethic thing that you've got to, when you're going to work on something, especially something as important as a ballot initiative, you need people there. You need people in the chairs, in a room, talking about this stuff, bringing forth legislation that's going to be beneficial to the state of Mississippi. But what Senator McDaniel does, he waits, he lets us get the work done, and then we sideline it for another year. We're going to come back to it, which is the same with the ballot initiative. And then he shows up and he yells about nothing getting done. But where was he when we were doing the work on this? And he's just not there, Paul.
How much money have you raised so far? Because the last we checked, it was around $5,000. Have you gone, are you closing in on that $5,000?
Well, thanks so much for asking about that. I checked this morning. We're at $6,200. So we have raised $6,200 since last Wednesday to help.
Wait a minute. I thought maybe you ought to send Melanie a thank you. You need to send Melanie a thank you.
I certainly should. Look, I did this fundraiser on behalf of my grandmother in her honor. She's a breast cancer survivor. Grace Floyd, my nana. I'm so proud of her for what she's done. And look, we're raising money on this. If you bully me, if you try to bully me in Mississippi, I'm gonna turn it around and we're gonna raise money on it. And I think
you've done that. Absolutely, positively. I think they've messed with the wrong person. But there are other people certainly in the Senate where he serves who are like-minded. They know this guy.
Right. Look, a lot of us, like I said, Paul, I supported Chris McDaniel's 2014 campaign. I believed in what he was saying. I thought we had found, that he was going to be a conservative fighter. And then I got to know him, and I'm not the only one that supported him or liked what he had to say. When you hear, look, he's a great talker. He's a very good orator. But when those of us that get to serve with him get to see, his seat empty all the time, the flyers piling up on his desk. He shows up for a vote, and then every once in a while he'll show up and make a speech on a vote. We haven't heard from him at all. But most of my colleagues in the Senate know who he is now, know what he is. He is I consider him to be like a lion tamer, Paul. He throws red meat out there and rattles the cage, but at the end of the day, he's just an entertainer. He doesn't get the work done.
There is so much negativity in the state. There's one nonprofit media site that asks you to donate money, and even though it's backed by millionaires, that no matter what is, if we cure cancer, they would say it hasn't been cured fast enough, and they go on and on and on. That's why I hate to see something this devastating as far as the mudslinging in a political campaign, because there are so many things the House and Senate under Republican leadership, and that gets pushed back. Like, for instance, we've improved education. Well, the writings in their paper is it hasn't improved enough. We've lowered taxes. Well, it hasn't been lowered enough. We've given teachers raises. Well, it's just not enough. And you go on and on and on, and there's just such a limit. I think it's a lot like a parent telling a kid when they wake up in the morning, instead of "I love you," why the hell are you getting up? The world's against you. You're going to fail. You might as well sleep a little later so you can fail a little with more rest. And that's the way I feel when I hear all of this negativity. But your final thoughts on this?
Yeah, Paul, look, legislating is a tough job. It takes hard workers. It takes serious people. And look, dirty politics like we're seeing here in this instance is what keeps good people from wanting to throw their name in the hat and wanting to get out there and serve the state of Mississippi or serve, the United States or even their community. But you're right. There's just so much negativity, so much things that aren't done. And we have had a very great term the last 4 years under the leadership of Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann, as well as Speaker Gunn and Governor Reeves. We've had a great 4 years, Paul.
The begging paper, or I shouldn't say paper, news site, when you start looking at the incredible economic news that we've gotten in the last few years, it's not enough. We're still on the bottom. We're still on the bottom. Well,
right.
What are you going to do? Jeremy, man, thank you. Thank you for fighting back. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.